First of all, I have to say thanks so much to Patrick and the Maxis admin team. You guys are doing such an amazing job, and for bringing us back here. As Graham said earlier, it's so wonderful to see all of your faces once again in person. So, I know you all are probably pretty hungry. I know I haven't had any food yet this morning, so I feel your pain, so I'll try to get through all of this pretty quickly. And so yeah, let's just get started. So, why won't they just do what we say? I'm an IT service manager, and over the last year, actually going back many years, I found myself having this conversation with my team. Why aren't they updating their computers? Why won't they restart? We had one guy, when we finally got his computer into compliance, we finally realized that he hadn't rebooted his computer in 6 months. Yeah, oh, gasps, nice, yes, exactly. So why won't they do that? Why won't they just do what we tell them to do? I mean, we obviously know what's right? We're the experts. They hired us to do these things. That's why we're here. So why won't they listen to us? So that's today's topic. It's something that is, I found myself asking that question over and over and over again. I heard myself saying it. I heard my colleagues saying it. I am sure all of you guys have said it many times. That how can we, in our work life, manage that? So the first question I was like, well, why are we saying this? What is the situation that is causing us to have this thing, and why are we questioning it? I mean, everybody should know they have things to do, right? Everybody knows that we're here to help them. That's our job. I'm a service manager. I'm here to help. But do they? So today I want to take us on a trip through the mind of our customers, our end users, the stakeholders. I use these words to mean the people that we take care of. I was recently reminded by one of our friends here at the conference that when I say customer, for me, that means someone that I owe a service to, a service relationship. But some of us, I understand that customer may also imply a fiduciary arrangement. Like I do something for them, they pay me. Well, my boss pays me, but my customers don't necessarily. So I'm going to use words like stakeholder or end user, but really I think of these people as our customers. I got into this job, like many of us, I think, because I love helping people. I feel that I am at my best when I do things for people to help them do what they do better. But before I get started, a little bit about me. Now, here's the funny thing. Patrick said that this is the first time I've been on stage in person, and it's true. But I had the privilege and opportunity to present at Maxis Admin for the last couple of years online. So as I was preparing my slides, I was like, well, of course, I need the Who Am I slide, and of course I should put the picture there, because obviously you won't know what I look like. Oh, that's right, we're in person. So anyway, as I said, I'm an IT support service manager in Tokyo. Yes, I'm the Tokyo guy. My company works in both Japan and Thailand, as well as Singapore and other parts of Asia. So we have an operation, a fintech operation that spans a number of locations in Asia. Now, if I give you a banana, I think you would do something for me. Would you guys do something for me? Absolutely. This week has been amazing so far. I think we've had a wonderful set of presenters. I'm just so excited, but I know that we're sitting a lot. So I want everybody just to stand up. If you want to stand up, just stretch. If you can, just Just stretch, move your arms up. Yes, get up and move around, get a little bit. I know you just came back, but let's move and get kind of a thing going on there. All right, there we go. See, doesn't that get the blood flowing a little bit? Helps you to, excellent. And you get a banana because of that. So where was I? What was the problem? Well, we have to keep our endpoints safe. We have to keep our people safe. We have their best interests in mind, and surely they know this, right? So what is the issue? What is the problem? Are they lazy? Are they just willfully ignoring us? Are they, what is up? Okay, so let's work the problem. Most of us are engineers. Let's think about that. Some of them may have different priorities, right? If you want to install the Mac OS, you have to reboot. But maybe my priority as an end user or a customer, I don't want to reboot, I've got to get my work done. So IT's priority for rebooting, not my priority. Maybe they didn't understand the instructions. They're like, in fact, I had one person, he's like, I use a desktop. We were trying to, when we were migrating from one MDM to the other, we had to do, user participation enrollment as we migrated from one to the other. And I had one guy come to me and said, well, I use a desktop. I don't need a mobile device management system, right? Maybe it's a conflict. Maybe it's a conflict with your team. Maybe it's a conflict with yourself, me. I can't help you with personality conflicts. And that happens in the workplace. It does. There are places that can help. If you think that one of the possible reasons is that IT is seen as the bad guy and there's conflicts of personality within your organization, well, the Organization and Relationship Systems Coaching, or ORSC, is a systems thinking framework that I find really, really useful for helping to manage conflict in the workplace. So if you're interested in that, and I'll just stop here and say, my slides are going to be available online, as you all know, and you don't have to take notes. There's nothing really, really highly technical in this. So I'll put this all up online, and I will put links to resources like ORSC if you are interested. Okay. Now, does anyone know this phrase? Would you like a sandwich? Okay, so Brené Brown did a great video on empathy versus sympathy. And again, you can search this online, you can find this on YouTube, it's no problem. And I won't show the video here because I'll just summarize it for you, but when you do get a chance, watch this. And I'm just going to summarize it because sympathy is, for example, I just lost my job. I thought I was employed, but I'm not. And sympathy would be like, oh, wow, well, at least you're healthy. Or, at least you got your family. Would you like a sandwich? Empathy, however, excuse me. Empathy is letting the person know that you know that they're struggling. You don't have to fix the problem, which is a problem for me because I fix things. I love fixing things. That's what I do. That's what I love doing. Empathy is not about fixing things. It's about letting the person know that you know that they're struggling or that they're having an issue. So you don't want to ask them if they want a sandwich. You want to let them know that you are there with them. And this video that I'm pointing to, and I hope you go take a chance to look at that, really illustrates that very well. But pacing when you're talking to people is really, really important for this sort of thing. There are psychological differences between how people like to communicate, right? And depending on who you're talking to, you may need to change things up a little bit. An important part of communication is rapport. How can we create a feeling where we understand, and I know that you understand, that we're kind of on the same page with each other? But learning styles and listening styles are very different. there's auditory, there's visual, there's auditory, there's kinesthetic, like touching and stuff like that. When I'm first training someone on a Mac, for example, I want them to do the work. Move your mouse up to the Apple menu, click on that, go to System Settings. Watch them do these things. Daniel Kim, formerly of MIT, had something that he calls the engine of success. The quality of a relationship, right? We're talking about relationships between the people that we support. Quality of the relationship informs the quality of the thinking. And the quality of the thinking then therefore influences the quality of the action. And quality of the action influences the quality of the results. And, you got it, and then the quality of results influences the quality of relationships. It's a cycle, the engine of success. So, why am I talking about all these things? The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear. And the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. This was the first sentence of an essay written by Howard Phillips Lovecraft, a writer that I really enjoy. And it reminded me that our old friend, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that might be one of the things that's getting in our way. Excuse me. I mean, like I said, it could be relationships or personality. It could be all these other things. But I think a lot of this is FUD. In fact, most of my life, most of my work, and many of us are dealing with this, right? I think the IT industry invented the word FUD, right? The term. And I think after all of this time, you'd think I was getting better at it. But maybe I've been going about it wrong, I think. I spent a lot of time thinking about this year. So when we're thinking about this, let's analyze it. When somebody is afraid, right, psychology tells us that there are three responses. There used to be two, but someone added a third one in there recently, back since I studied this sort of stuff in college. Fear invokes fight, flight, or freeze. And coughing. Responses to fear are a basic human reaction. This is constant across every human culture in the world. Right? The oldest emotion in humanity is fear. When they avoid installing the latest OS, when they avoid rebooting their computer for 6 months, when they do all of these things, this is a flight or fight reflex, I think. But since these are built-in human reactions, how can we deal with that? Right? What are we going to do about that? How can we get these people to do the right thing, the thing that we know that they need to do? And I hope somewhere down deep that they know that they need to do this, but there's something blocking them. Some way they're in a box. They're being blocked by that. I thought about this for a while, and I thought it's mistrust. Now, a few years ago, I was really lucky to present, and I talked about national culture. I talked about national culture and the differences between groups of people and how we process the challenges of the human experience. One of these fundamental areas is how we process trust. Right? A lack of trust is difficult. It's hard to deal with. There was a great presentation at, I think, Jamf Nation back in 2016. And my friend over here, our friend over here, Eric, pointed me to this when I was talking to him about preparing for this presentation. And it was about the trust battery. Now, again, I'm not going to play the video for you because we don't have a lot of time, but I recommend to you that you go and take a look at this. JNUC 2016, the Shopify presentation about the trust battery. But in a sense, it talks about every interaction that we have with the people that we're dealing with, either charges or discharges that trust battery. That got me also thinking about something else that we don't talk about a lot, and that's psychological rank. So as technologists, we do something that our constituents, our stakeholders, maybe find very confusing. They don't know what we do many a times. And when you don't know something, you may fear it. You may mistrust it. And when you talk to someone who does something that you don't do, but yet we control these devices that they rely for their work on, there's a rank that we have. And if we're not careful, if we're dismissive, if we're sympathetic, we can abuse that rank and further increase mistrust. Again, empathy versus sympathy, I think, is key here. So, let's make a calculation. Let's think about this for a little bit. Uncertainty and doubt are countered by information dump, right? If you don't know something, you can tell them about it. If they don't know something, you can tell them about it. If they are uncertain, you can reassure them. This is information. But fear is an emotion. An emotion is handled by a very different part of our brain. And so, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to face the fear emotion, right? Our customers are not usually experts. We're the experts. The systems that we control are complex. There's that psychological rank. We do these arcane, strange things that control the fate of people's work lives. And the last 4 years has made this even worse. We can't just walk over to someone's desk and say, "Hi, Eric, I know you're having trouble with your computer. Just let me take over." And then there's a communication, a rapport in person. They're familiar. They see me in the office every day, so they kind of trust me. They know I'm not going to come. I'm not some crazy person just walking in off the street. We don't have that. Right? We may not have even met the people that we work with. I know that when I was hired in my current position, was the first time that I went through the entire interview and hiring process without meeting one person in person until the first day I walked into an office. And we may not be going back to the office, or whatever office means. I know that my company works pretty much mostly remote, so I have to deal with that. And that's one layer separate from that friendly visit to the desk. So what could we do? How are we going to deal with this? Well, we could try to use power. And we do. We tell people to do stuff. We use that rank to get them to comply, just like the Borg. Right? We ask people to do things, and if we're lucky, they'll stand up and stretch when you ask them to. Not all use of power is bad, but it is use of power. And use of power to force compliance is short-term. You constantly have to give them bananas. You constantly have to be nice. You constantly have to ask or tell them to do things. And so therefore, it's not really sustainable. not without that constant reinforcement of that power. So I don't think it's really easy to do. And compound that over the fact that I work in at least 4 different national cultures. At Maxis Admin, one of the greatest conferences I've ever been to, I was very, very impressed the first time I came here by the vast diversity of cultures that we deal with. It's one of the reasons I love this conference so much. So, we use this. We use power, right? We use rules. We use tools. And how is that working out for us? Now, I'm not spanking on tools, okay? Developers out there and everybody who builds tools, we use them, right? It's in the name. But I wonder if using tools and enforcing behavior through applying force in rules is it really the best way? I'm going to tell you a story really quickly. There's a couple of hotel chains in Japan, and one is really old, really famous, but they don't have a lot of money. And then there's the new hotel. Right? I've told a few of you about how it is to live in Japan. It's like living in the future, right? We got automatic toilets. We got all sorts of cool stuff. They don't even have staff. You just come in and you check in by yourself, and there's all sorts of this wonderful stuff. They built their efforts, they focused their resources on improving their tool set. Now, the hotel chain that doesn't have a lot of money, is really old, focuses on service. They don't have a lot of money, so they can't buy the new cool tools. They can't buy the, automatic toilets and all that stuff. They've got, their hotel's a little bit dingy, a little bit run down, but it's clean, it's fine. But their staff is amazing. I walk in, and before I even check in, they're like, in Japanese, "Welcome back, Mr. Robinson. How may we help you?" The other place doesn't even have a human, right? And I was recently talking to a friend of mine and pointed out that is just a lost opportunity. And guess what? Guess who's making a lot of money now? The first one. The old hotel chain is more successful than the one that spent a lot of money on tools. We can also try to teach. As I said before, uncertainty and doubt are lack of information and reassurance. So, we can use teaching methodologies. We can provide, confluence spaces. We can provide documentation. We can send PDFs up to everybody. You can have presentations on stage. You can talk about things, and you can, if you have the time. But if you don't have trust, it's difficult to learn. And if you don't have learning, you're back to square one again. So teaching, if you can do it, and sometimes it's appropriate, you can. So we can try to tell stories. Remember I said rapport is really, really important, and it is. We tell stories all the time. We talk to people, and we're storytellers. For days this week, I've been sitting and listening to stories. I've been telling stories. I've been hearing some of the stories that you have been telling me. Henrik, I don't know where you are out here, but I asked you a couple of stories, right, about IT services. Storytelling is a fundamental human behavior. That sounds really familiar, right? It's great to create a bond, but it takes time. And not all people are good at telling stories, right? Some of us are shy, right? But if you can do it, it's a great tool. I'm going to tell you another story. So I got into the new organization, finally meeting people, right? And my boss does not like to public speak. And you may have noticed the trouble with me is not getting me to speak, it's getting me to stop, So I said, boss, I'm totally in, right? I'm new to the company. I would love to give, the company report on behalf of you, sir. So, and I meant it. I was really, really interested. I was the guy that sat in the front row at university on the first day and asked questions, right? So we were trying to roll out hardware keys, and we were getting hard adoption. It was difficult. We were not getting the adoption that we wanted. And so I sat up there and I gave a presentation on YubiKeys. I said, these things are great. And I went and I did the whole thing, and you're about to see kind of all of that right now. And people lost it. They were, it was in the Slack, and I was getting a video, and they're on the side, they were like, oh my God, it's like watching a TED Talk, and he was great. IT is cool, I didn't understand, and wow, I promise I will do it. And then we got the engagement off the charts. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm like trying to say I'm really, really great. I'm saying that I told a story, and I engaged. It was over Zoom, but it was the best I could do at the time. And it worked. We had better adoption, and not 100%, but we eventually got there. All right. So we got teaching, info dumps, we've got storytelling, we've got, Zoom calls. Let's ask some questions. Why are we here? Why do we do this work? I told you about me. Why do you guys do the work that you do? Somebody give me something. Money. Money. Okay. Good. Anybody else? Fun people. Yes. Masochism. Okay, yeah. Honestly, yes, sir, right there. Helping people and being loved. That's great, right? Everybody? Yeah? How do we work with these stakeholders? How do we work with these customers if we sense there may be a state of mistrust? How do we get around that, right? Is there something that we can do? Is there a framework out there that can help us bring people where we want them to go? I think there is. It's not something that we normally talk about. It's not something that, well, honestly, many people feel comfortable with, honestly. But leadership is a skill set. It's no different than any other skill that you guys have learned many times over. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Bear with me for a while. Of course, in these kind of presentations, you always got to go to Wikipedia and give the definition, right? Leadership is, I'm going to read this one, encompasses the ability of an individual, group, or organization to lead. You're not supposed to use the word that you're defining for the, okay, never mind. Wikipedia, I'll get back there and edit that later. Influence or guide other individuals, teams, or entire organizations. You know what? That kind of sounds very familiar. What is a leader, though? Why are you talking about this stuff? Every single person in this room is a leader. I look at you and I see people that are taking the first step for a new OS, a new technology. You lead. You're already leaders. You go first. And you get people to follow. Now, we already talked about a couple of ways to do that, but I'm going to go a little bit with this leadership stuff. There are tons of books, there's tons of videos. I don't have to go through them all. You can go and read up on as much leadership books and theories as you want online, but I'm going to cover a couple of summarized things here. The study of leadership is older than Christianity. It's older than recorded history, right? It's been around a long time. But Over the past year-ish or so, one of my go-tos is a man named Simon Sinek. Does anybody know that name? All right, yeah, okay, excellent. So again, I'm not going to take you, I'm going to show a Simon Sinek video. Go online and watch some of this stuff. But I'm going to give you some things that I heard over and over, and I kept hearing in his videos. Start with why. Now, the great thing about presenting at a conference like this, especially when you're in the middle, is that people have gone before you. So there's been people already who've already talked about why. So I don't think I have to go into that. But start with why, not how. Why are we doing this? Why are you here? Why do you want me to reboot my computer? Why should I enroll my device? It's the company's device, but it's my device in MDM. Why? Next. Game theory. A finite versus infinite game. A finite game has a winner and a loser, right? It's a zero-sum game, in another way of describing it. It's finite. It ends. An infinite game is played with the purpose of continuing to play. When I'm engaging in a support interaction or when I'm working with a boss or with a colleague, if I'm winning, if I'm trying to win, if I'm trying to fight, that's a finite game. That goes back to empathy again. If I'm trying to continue, if I use an infinite mindset, maybe I can get better results. This one's my favorite. Being a leader is not about being in charge. All of you are leaders. It's about being responsible for those in our charge. Not about being in charge, but being responsible for those in our charge. We are here to care for the people that we serve. Let them know that. And always, always, always remember that we work for the users. Right? That was a quote from Tron. Come on, guys. We work for the users. We work for the people. A good leader, in my estimation, and same with Simon Sinek, always puts their team first. And by extension, I'm talking about our customers, our stakeholders, our constituents, our end users. Putting them first, which we already do, really. That's also very, very useful. Now, all of this advice sounds really familiar to me because I had learned earlier something that sounded very, very similar to what I was hearing, and that was servant leadership. Does anyone know that one? Yep, Tom, I'm sure you do. You know everything. Servant leadership is a flavor of leadership that I think is extremely appropriate for what we do. But what is servant leadership? Okay, Robert Greenleaf came up with this idea, I think in 1958, I think he read a story by Hermann Hesse, right? He read Journey to the East. And later on in like 1970, he wrote an essay and then later a book about this. Now, so essentially what this thing is, and I believe, okay, so the story is about a servant, right? The servant Leo is traveling with a group of men on this mythic journey. And the servant is a very jolly person, and he sings songs, and he takes care of people, right? And he, provides services. But one day, Leo disappeared. And the journey stopped because everybody fell into disarray. Leo was keeping the group together. Oops, did I go too far? There you go. The group couldn't make it without their servant. Their servant was actually leading them. Another quote by Simon Sinek was that there are a lot of people, he said, that he knew who were leaders, but not at the top of their organizations. And there are a lot of people at the top of their organizations that were not leaders. Hierarchy is not what I'm talking about. That's a job title. So, anyway, Leo connected the group. He was the cohesive bond. He was the way that they were able to do things until he wasn't there anymore. And Greenleaf thought about this, and then he started to come up with some tenets. Now, one of the things that Leo was doing was like he was singing songs and stuff like that. I'm not saying that you have to go sing songs for you, but you know what? Hey, if it works, who am I to judge? So, what is servant leadership? Let's break it down a little bit, because I don't think all of us want to go read Herman Hesse or Greenleaf's book. So let's bullet point this, right? Now, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of stuff online that you can go and look and figure out what servant leadership is, and some of you have already heard of this. But okay, so listening. Listening is important. Appreciation, awareness. This is a big one for me. Humility, rank, remember? Rank is tough. Trust, empathy. Oh, there's another word we've heard before this morning. Commitment to community. One of the most beautiful things, and we've already heard from the other great speakers this week so far, is that the strongest single word I can think of from Access Admin is community. Prioritizing others over yourself. I'm kind of describing our job, right? I mean, you can go to Google and you can just pull up an increasingly large number of aspects of servant leadership. So we can just move on from that. So trust me, this is something that you can take a look at. Now, leadership in the US and the UK takes a little bit of a different kind of format than maybe some of you from the Nordics here appreciate. So when I think of a leader, when I think of a good leader, I think of a coach. I was a gymnast in university and in high school. And when I was a kid, I was, skinny. I know. I used to be skinny a long time ago. And I hated sports because I was bad at sports. And the first day of school, when I was a freshman in high school, my teacher was in a three-piece suit. And he said, "Hi, my name is Mark Williams. I'm your new English teacher, and I'm also going to start the gymnastics team." And he proceeded to do a backflip in the class. Boom. I'm not going to do that here. And I was like, oh, that was cool. I said that inside voice. And I wanted some of that. And I went home and I told my mom and I told my dad, I said, "Mom, Dad, I want to join the gymnastics team." And they're like, "Really?" Because they knew what happened when I joined the baseball team and whatever, track and field, because I sucked at all of that. But he saw something in me. He specifically came to me and said, "Andrew, I want you to come and try out for the gymnastics team." And I am telling you today that all the bad stuff is my fault, but all the good things that I have in my personality as an adult, as a person, as a service-oriented person, comes from that man. Mark Williams changed my life. He was the first servant leader I ever encountered, even before I knew that word, that phrase. Now, not all of you know Mark Williams, sorry, but I think you may know another great coach. And again, I don't really have to show a lot of videos for this, although I've heard some of you haven't finished the season. I mean, seriously? I think it's about time you get going. You have homework. So Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso is a great example, whether it's the dart scene, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't, you got a treat ahead of you. Ted Lasso embodies much of what I talk about with servant leadership. So if you are like, I don't want to read the book, I'm tired of looking at YouTube videos, watch that show. Great example. Okay. Now, in the Nordics, as I said before, you guys approach leadership in a little bit different way. A leader in the Nordics, Scandinavia here, they're coordinators. You know, a coach is like, hey, all right, we're going to get you, and you're going to go in there and get the thing. And put me in, coach. Yeah, get in there. Do that. Here, it's coordination. It's a facilitator. It's a gatherer of resources. Okay, so I don't even need to tell you what a great leader in the Nordics is, because I think we have a great example in Patrick right there. Patrick, thank you so much. So I encourage you to find out what makes a good leader for your background. What makes you feel comfortable? You're already there, but I want you to optimize it. I want you to think about actualizing it, using it, because I think that when you start to rethink how we process what we do, we can teach, we use storytelling, we can do, all sorts of these techniques. One area that I don't know if we're taking enough advantage of is accepting our roles as leaders. The ones who go first. The ones who inspire others to follow. When I look out here, that's what I see. Everybody look to your left and look to your right and look and see the leaders in our community that are right next to you. So, I have one hot take. Well, actually, I have a few, but we'll go with this one first. I said I wasn't going to spank on tools, and I'm still not. But we've spent a lot of this week, and we will continue to spend a lot of this week, to talk about how we build tools to enforce compliance. And I want to make a suggestion that instead of only working on more tools to better control the end user experience and behavior, I would like to think about talking about talk. Talking to the other humans. Most of us in here are human. Using that resources to build, if I was going to ask a software developer to give me my wish list, yes, I want to have better enforcement on the desktop level for my endpoints, but I would also kind of appreciate a better tool to help me engage directly with my user base. I don't have a lot of details about that. I got some ideas. You want to talk about this? We'll meet up later at the party. But for the developers out there, and you know what? Everything that we're talking about, it's not just end users like the people in the finance department or the people in the sales department. We're talking about DevOps. We're talking about all of the things that we lead people, that we take and go first and bring them with us. Give me a tool that facilitates that talk. Somehow make that easier, because we live in a remote world. We will never go back to the office like we used to. And I'm not saying we should. Okay. So, to sum up, and how am I doing? I got 9 minutes. Wow, I did really good. I thought I had a lot of stuff. Okay, I went fast though. The use of power granted by our roles is not the best tool. It's fleeting, right? We have to constantly reinforce it. We have to constantly use the same set of tools. Stand up. Here's a banana. Stretch. Do the good thing that you know you should do. You getting up and moving around is good, right? But you didn't do it until, I asked you nicely. Gave you a banana bribe. Use of power is fleeting. The direction that Apple is going in, and has been going in for a long time, involves user participation, right? If we don't get the user to approve, we don't get the user to type in their password. I mean, the users in my organization are admins. And you know, the admin versus non-admin thing, that's a whole other presentation. And I've been on both sides of that conversation. A lot of you here know me and know that I've argued pretty strongly for both sides of that. But I'm on user admin side now. I might stay here for a while. I want us to lead our customers. I want us to, instead of forcing them to do our bidding, I want us to pull them. I want us to bring them into what is right and what is good and what we should be, what we know is good for them. Lead them. Tools can help us, but it's the human interaction that is our best tool that we have. So I want to say thank you. I'm finishing a little bit early, which is, I hope, okay. And I want to say just one more thing. Patrick had mentioned this earlier, and for those of you who spent a little bit of time last year looking at the online presentations, you may have heard a few words that I used in my presentation that reminded us of our dear friend. And I just want to say that this is for Robin. He's dearly missed. And thank you all.